look at how good these dudes look right up here above me. It looks so good, so good. Guys, welcome to Justnutz, and today I'm making sort of like a deck build tutorial impression video. It's a weird video, and I haven't done one like this yet, quite like this yet, but pretty much what this video is I'm not giving you a deck list, I'm not giving you a deck profile. Instead, I'm going through all the cards you would pretty much consider for like this specific deck, Lightsworns, and we're going to go through them, and I'm going to give you my impressions for pretty much all the most relevant cards like that. Not every single card that would ever be considered for the deck, but a lot of them, and I'll let you decide how you want to build the deck from there. So I'm just going to give you the tools, give you the overview and what every card does and what's most important and so on and so forth, because I'm one of those people that I'll watch when I'm building a new deck. I'll watch a couple deck profiles, but I won't take a list specifically. I'll watch a couple deck profiles, I'll see things that I like from some and don't like from some, and then kind of narrow down my own list and get to my own list, because I don't like just copy and pasting. I want to run my own stuff. I want my own little twist to be thrown into every deck that I use, because that's what makes it mine. And if you're like that, then I think this is a good video for you. Anyway, before we hop right into this and just start firing off with these cards, guys, subscribe if you hadn't, because I'm trying to make this YouTube thing a thing, so it would be very much appreciated. But without further ado, let's get started with the monsters, the Lightsworn monsters here. So this guy's probably the most important Lightsworn monster in your main deck, probably. Raiden, Hand of the Lightsworn, so he just says, during your main phase you can mill 2, and then on your end phase you can mill 2 more if he's still on the field. He's also a tuner and a warrior, so keep that in mind. Oh, if I didn't say, alright, I should say this first. If you don't know anything about Lightsworns are pretty much a strategy where you try to you mill. So you send the cards off the top of your deck to the graveyard, and you pretty much just play a ton of cards that have value in the graveyard. They either have effects that activate when they're sent, or just an effect they can activate while they're in there. So you pretty much just gain advantage. Like a lot of decks gain advantage by adding cards to hand. But this deck gains advantage by sending cards to grave instead. So that's the whole strategy here. It floods the board very quickly, and you overwhelm your opponent is what you're trying to do. There's definitely RNG based into it. Obviously, it's a mill deck. Sometimes you're going to mill 2 cards with Raiden, and neither of those 2 cards are going to be usable, and then you're not going to be able to do anything except wait for your end phase mill and hope that that 2-card mill gets you something more valuable, or something that can just help you play. Anyway, so that's like an overview for what the deck does. So everything will start making more and more sense here. So most important thing to keep in mind is Raiden is level 4. They're all level 4. Not all of them, but most of them are level 4. He's a warrior tuner. He's light and 1700 beat stick, but he gets your mills off. He's one of your best starter cards as far as just your normal summon. So Raiden, really, really important to the strategy right here. Then we have Luna, Lightsworn Summoner. She says once per turn you can discard a card that target a level 4 lower Lightsworn engrave and special summon it. And then on your end phase you mill 3. If she's still on the field. A lot of times they're not even on the field for their end phase mill, not unless you're kind of desperate. You won't play like that, so that's not a huge deal, that end phase mills. But yeah, don't worry about that. And this is also a more focused on a pure Lightsworn build. I'm not really focusing on because earlier this year, a big deck, one of the best decks that was in the game was a 60 card dinosaur Lightsworn zombie plant mishmash, and it had its heyday, but that was obviously when that grass looks greener was still playable, which now it's completely banned, so you can't do it this way. So this is mostly, I'm gonna give you all this advice with my frame of mind based around a 40 card more pure Lightsworn build, not super focused on any of the other ones. And feel free to sub those in if you want to try them, but this is just specifically for the pure Lightsworn, at least the advice I'm giving on it. So Lumina, really good card, gets you special summons from grave. Then Wolf. Wolf is one of your best mill cards. He cannot be normal summoned or set. He's 2100, level 4, so he's huge, but he can't be normal summoned, and he has to be special summoned by a card effect. And pretty much he special summons himself. When this card is sent from deck to graveyard, special summon it. There you go. If you mill him, you special him. So he can be a really big beat stick, and if you mill multiple of him, or a combination of him and Felice, you just special summon them out. She has the same thing. Can't be normal summoned. Must be special summoned from an effect. And when she's milled, you special summon her. Also, you can tribute her, then target a monster your opponent controls and destroy it, then send the top 3 cards of your deck to the grave. So that can come up. Usually you won't use that effect, but it definitely can come up. It's not a completely irrelevant effect. And also keep in mind she is a tuner as well. And they're all different types, which is really important as well. So you have warrior, spellcaster, and then these are both beast warriors. But she's a tuner. Keep that in mind. It can definitely come up. And then you have Judgment Dragon, which is supposed to be the boss for Lightsworns, and you don't have to play this card. But it is like a really powerful card. It's up to you if this is the kind of build you want. I'm not saying it's the most competitive, but it definitely can steal games. This card can just like win games for you easily. So pretty much what this card says is you have to special summon it by having 4 or more Lightsworns with different names in your graveyard. Okay, you mill a lot, you send a lot. Not the hardest thing to do. I just went through 4 there. You also have some in the extra deck as well to get into grave faster. And yeah, so it's fairly easy to do. He's 3,000 beatstick, and he reads this effect as well. You can pay 1,000 life points to destroy all other cards on the field. Then on your end phase, mill 4. So obviously you can see why this card is so powerful. Just pay 1,000 and destroy all other cards on the field. Keep in mind it's all other cards on the field, not just on your opponent's field. So you don't want to wipe your own stuff as well in some cases. But even just having the free 3,000 beat stick is awesome. But as far as these cards go, these are, I feel like, the 4 you gotta play. I personally would play like Raiden at 3 because he's like one of your best starter cards. He's like your best normal summon pretty much. Lumina at 1 or 2. I think 3 is kind of too bricky because you got to get stuff engraved to be able to use her effect. And if you draw her without being able to get stuff engraved, then it's not that good. And then Wolf and Felice, I'd probably play these at like either 3 Wolf, 2 Felice, or like 2 and 2. That's probably the ratio I like the best, because you just need, like, your deck is just going to be like half cards that just help you mill and just help you like roll through your deck, and half of cards that just want to be milled and just generate you tons of value from being milled. So you need to find like that good balance of like, okay, like my hand is going to be like half bricks, but the other half is going to be the half that lets me mill, and that's where I'm going to like be fine. Because like you're not really going to see hands where you draw 5 or 6 cards that like are all usable right there. You're going to draw Felice, you're going to draw Wolf, and they're going to be bad in the hand. But as long as you have something to help you mill, you're going to be all right. And then we have this card. This is like the best Lightsworn card, like period. It says send the top 3 cards of your deck to graveyard and then add 1 level 4 or lower Lightsworn monster from deck to hand. Keep in mind the mill is cost. So even if your opponent has Ash, they can negate the add to hand, but you still get to mill. So sometimes you can still just get like a really good mill. And even though your opponent used an Ash, you still just got to mill 3. Like if this card's effect was literally just mill 3, it'd still be like a really good card. But you also get to like add a Raiden as a starter card, add a Lumina as a follow-up / like board presence card, and so on and so forth. So really, really good card. Probably the best card in the deck, like generally. There, and then Solar Recharge. This card says discard 1 Lightsworn monster, draw 2 cards, then send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So this card's kind of like a trade-in style card, but you also get to mill 2, so a little extra value there. It's a 2 for 2, but you also get to mill. So sometimes it's more than a 2 for 2, depending on what you mill. So pretty good card as well, just for consistency. I'd probably pay both of those at 3. So those are like the most, like the Lightsworns that are like the most relevant in the main deck. There are some other ones that are like okay, but honestly, if you're trying to play like a competitive build, I don't think the other ones are like all that relevant, to be honest. I'm not saying they're terrible. I'm just saying like if you're trying to run like the most competitive build or like a more competitive build where you're actually dueling like meta with it, I wouldn't worry about the other ones all too much. But this card right here, this is the reason. Fairy Tale Snow is the reason the deck is alive, period. If Fairy Tale Snow was banned, and I know for a while people were worried Fairy Tale Snow was going to get banned or wanting it to get banned, and it didn't. But if it ever does, like this deck just like doesn't exist. I mean, it does exist. It just loses so much power. So pretty much Fairy Tale Snow reads like this. When it's summoned, normal or special, target a monster on the field or your opponent controls and change it face down. So you can just take a monster and book a moon it. Other effect says during either player's turn, so this is a quick effect, if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 7 cards from your hand, field, or graveyard and special summon this card. It's also 1850, so it's a beat stick, and it's light, which is also really relevant. But pretty much quick effect on your opponent's turn, you can banish 7 cards, special this, and book a moon your opponent's monster. So really, really strong. Like, think of like an invoked play, a trick star play. If they just start with like Candina or like Alistair, you just chain this, flip them down, and then just like their play's probably over. Their turn's over. They may set some cards, their play's over. So that's pretty cool. It's really, really good disruption. I know with links, the Book of Moon effect can be like less effective, but like if you're going first and you set this up, you just hit stuff before they link it away. So it's like not a big deal. And it also, even if you don't use the Book of Moon effect, it's still an 1850 beat stick on board as a pretty decent monster. And it's light as well. Keep that in mind. It'll come back to relevancy later. Then we have Destrudo. These are just generically good like graveyard cards. You have to play Snow. Snow's the best card in the deck. Also, I said like there's a lot of really good, really powerful cards that you're just trying to take advantage. You got to play Snow at like 2 or 3. I feel like that's a huge like preference thing because Snow is one of your win conditions, so you want to see it engrave. But also with 3, you're gonna have hands where you draw 2, and like I said, it's like finding that perfect balance for you. So I would test it out and then probably end up somewhere on 2 or 3. You can't really play less than 2, I would say. Then we have Destrudo. Destrudo is just so powerful. Like you don't have to play it if you prefer not to pay half your life points for one effect. I get it, but also at the same time, this card's so powerful, and you have like built-in level 7 Synchros in the archetype and like some really powerful ones just in general that you can make, and you can like Black Rose without even using your normal summon, and just like, so this card's just so powerful. One of the most powerful like graveyard cards, like monster effects that are in the game. So I would run it, but it's up to you. It is a hefty cost, so keep it in mind. Then we have Glow Bulb. This is just one of the best cards, and playing this card is like, this deck only gets better when like Needle Fiber comes out, when well, I guess it's mostly Needle Fiber, but like you play like tuners. You can make Needle Fibers so easy in this deck and just like spam the board like so even more when Needle Fiber comes out. So that's pretty cool. And this card also mills you one. It's just a really good graveyard card. I feel like you got to play it. Same thing with Jet Synchron. This card says pitch a card from your hand and then special this from grave. That's pretty much it. The reason I like this card is because if you ever have a bricky hand and you have like a not Destrudo, that doesn't work, but if you have like a Fairy Tale Snow in hand, a Glow Up Bulb in hand, any of these cards that just like are good in the graveyard, you just use this. Not only do you get this to the field, but you also get to send another card that's going to get you more value in the graveyard. So that discard for cost is like, can be a plus in that situation. So, and you always end up with so many bricks in your hand. So like you're gonna have dead cards. So this card I really like actually. Then we have Eclipse Wyvern. This card, when it's sent, you can banish a level 7 or higher light or dark dragon from your deck, and then when this card is banished, you can add that dragon back to your hand. So pretty much what you use this for is like a combo with Judgment Dragon. You'll banish Judgment Dragon, and then when you Fairy Tale Snow banish Eclipse Wyvern, you'll add a Judgment to hand, and hopefully by that point you would have your 4 Lightsworns engraved so that you can just drop the dragon. So that's a pretty cool combo. This card I wouldn't play more than 2, maybe even 1. I think these are both 1-ups, Jet Synchron and Glow Up. And Destrudo, 1-of probably. If you played more, I wouldn't blame you. It's so powerful, but at the same time, it's dangerous to resolve too many of these because you're just putting yourself in range of like one big attack, and you just lose. So you got to be careful with that. Another card we have here is Supreme King Dragon Darkworm. This card says when it's in the grave and you control no monsters, you can just special summon this card. So that's mainly this card's purpose, is it can just be a free level 4 monster with no normal summon. So that's really good in the deck. If you play it at 1 just because you have so many ways to mill. Then we have Heroic Challenger 1000 Blades. He's pretty cool. He says if you ever take damage while he's in your graveyard, special summon him. It's a hard once per turn, but like he's just one of those guys that like every turn, if you can just either deal yourself damage or your opponent deals you damage, he just comes back every time. Every time. You just keep getting this body on board. So he can be really annoying, but at the same time, he's not one of the most powerful graveyard cards because it is relying on taking damage. So be careful on that, but I think he's a decent card for sure. One card that I've never really seen anybody be playing is Fabled Soul Keys, and I think it has like low key, like solid value in a deck like this, but I'm not entirely sure. I wouldn't play it more than one, but it just says if it's in the grave, you can send 2 cards from your hand to the grave to special summon him. So, like I said, you're going to end up with bricks in the hand. If you had, like, a snow and a glow bulb stuck in hand, you just sent those to special him. That's actually, like, so much value you could get right there off of this card. So, pretty cool. And he's a 22 body on board, so I don't know. I don't think he's the worst. I'm not sure if he's the best because it does still cost 2 cards from hand, which you might not want in all cases. So, that's pretty cool. Then we have this the Performage engine, which is really cool. I actually really like the Performage engine. Trick Clown says if this card is sent to the graveyard, target a Performage engrave and special summon it. Its attack and defense becomes 0, and you take 1,000 damage. So this card's really solid, especially combined with Heroic Challenger 1,000 Blades, because you just like if 1,000 Blades is already engraved, you would just and you mill or send Trick Clown, you just chain Trick Clown or activate Trick Clown's effect to special summon itself. Take 1,000 damage, then you special summon 1,000 Blades. So really good value there, and also dealing yourself that damage actually can help you with 1,000 Blades. So that's pretty cool. Then we have Damage Juggler. This card's main effect just says you can banish this card from grave to add a Performage monster from deck to hand. That's his main purpose. If you mill him, he can just be resources in hand. Most of the time, you're just going to add this guy. I couldn't find a... Why is this picture randomly small? I got them all from the same website. What the heck? Anyway... Hat Tricker pretty much just says if there are 2 or more monsters on the field, period, not even just you. If your opponent just has a board with 2 monsters and you're going second, you can just drop this card down. So this card's really, really good. I'd probably play both of these at 1 and then Hat Tricker at 2. Just because even if you just draw him without the others, he's really solid. So I really like him. And he's just a free level 4. Another card that's like really helpful with getting stuff out of your hand is Goblinberg. When he's normal summon, special summon a level 4 lower monster from your hand and change this card to defense mode. So it's literally summon this, get another level 4 lower on board. So really good with like cards like Glow Bulb, Snow, getting those cards out of your hand and into the grave quicker just by making like a quick rank 4 or a Link or whatever. So really good card with that. I'd probably play him at like 1 or 2. Yeah. Here, Photon Thrasher, another like board spam card. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from hand. He cannot be normal summoned, and he cannot control if you control another monster. He cannot attack if you control another monster. Pretty solid card. He's just a level 4. Like a lot of these cards just end up being like easy level 4s to get on board, just so you can start making rank 4 plays because that's like your toolbox that you have. Here, Dinotherium. I haven't seen this card in any deck profiles either, but I actually think he's like underrated. He just says you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, your opponent can target a level 4 specific monster from grave and from either player's graveyard and special summon it. So obviously that's a pretty big downside. It can be, but you're just hoping to see this turn 1, and if you're going first and you see this, your opponent's not going to be able to special anything because there's going to be nothing in grave. And then if you're going second and you open this, you're just hoping your opponent didn't put any level 4s in grave on their turn, and then you can just use him. So I think he's low. I think he's underrated. I think he's a pretty free summon. Then we have Giant Rex. This card's really important. You have to play this card at 1. It's really, really good, especially with Snow, because you just use Snow, banish him, and then get both to field, because he just says when he's banished, special summon him. He's 2,000 and he can't attack directly, so those are the main. That's mostly what he's for. There, another card is Balancer Lord. There's another banishment card. When this card's banished, you can special summon a level 4 lower monster from hand. Any level 4 lower, so that's pretty good for the Wolves and the Felices and the Snows that get stuck in hand. It's pretty good for that. Then Sheernary Spearmaster. When this card is banished, you can target a face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it. So this is like more of a utility card. I probably wouldn't play this in the main. If you want to put it in the side, I think it's spicy. But as far as a card that just like doesn't help you with board presence, like at least these two like help you get monsters on the board. This card just pops you 1. So even like going first, this card does nothing. So I don't know. I wouldn't play this in the main. Maybe in the side for like good matchups or just going second generally. I think it's pretty good. But other than that, I wouldn't play it. What makes all three of these cards better, all three of these monsters better, is Gold Sarcophagus. This card just says banish a card from your deck, and then on the second standby phase after you did this, add it to your hand. It's usually you're never going to get to add it to your hand. I guess you could if you did if you use Bouncer Lord or Spirit Master, they would eventually get back to your hand if the duel lasted that long. But most of the time you're either going to do Bouncer Lord or Rex. Most of the time just Rex, just to get a free level 4 on board, because you banish Rex with that, and then Rex just specials itself. And then obviously you don't get that add, but it's just, this card just says special Rex from deck, pretty much. So pretty good card, pretty good extender. And then as far as staples go that you'd run in the deck, like just kind of generic cards that are just good for the strategy, is like Monster Reborn. You're dumping so much into the graveyard that this card can really get you some solid cards. Succession as well, because you can only play one Monster Reborn, so I wouldn't blame you for playing this card as well. Rhoda, this adds Raiden, this adds Photon's Thrasher if you play it. This adds Goblinberg. You have a couple targets for this depending on what your hand looks like. So I would play it, just a consistency bump for sure. Called by the Grave, this deck, it can be really susceptible to Ash Blossom specifically, which is the most played hand trapped in the game, as well as in permanence. This doesn't hit in permanence, but impermanence is decent against the deck. If they hit Minerva or something and you don't get your mills. But Veiler, it stops Veiler, stops Ogre from popping your stuff. I think it's just a pretty good card there. So then we have Foolish Burial. This is one of the most powerful cards in your deck, because you just send anything. You can send Wolf and Special Wolf, and you just have a 21 beat stick. So this card can just be special summon a 2100 beat stick from deck. It can be send a Snow so that you can interrupt your opponent. Send a Glow Up Bulb to mill one and get Glow Up Bulb to field. There's so many cards. Send a Strudo so you can get a really easy Synchro level 7. Just a really powerful card. And in that same realm, we have Dragon Ravine and Dragon Shrine. They're both really solid for what they do. They just dump dragons from deck to grave. It's mostly just for Destrudo and Darkworm. That's mostly what they're for. I do kind of favor Ravine a little bit more, because you discard for cost, and you could just discard, like I said multiple times, all these cards that have discard for cost, it's not even in this deck, because you discard a Snow, you discard Glow Up Bulb, you discard Destrudo, and then mill or send Darkworm, and you know what I mean. So there's just the discard might not even hurt you. So pretty good. 1 for 1. This is mostly for Glow Up Bulb and Jet Synchron, and you can also send a monster from hand to graveyard. Ooh, more of the same. Just these kinds of cards that just dump everything into grave. Instant Fusion's a pretty good extender. It's just a free special summon. So this, and I'd probably play Mud Dragon. If you make Mud Dragon light, it'll make it so all your light monsters are untargetable by card effects. So a lot of hand traps can't touch your stuff while he's on the field, and then you just go through your plays. Brilliant Fusion is a card that the 60 card builds were really big on. I personally wouldn't run it in 40. Just because it's 40, and the Garnet, I feel like I'm gonna see the Garnet too often with this, and it's just not gonna be worth it in those instances. I get it if you want to play it, because it is a really good extender. I just think personally I wouldn't favor this card too much. Up to you though, up to you. An extra normal summon is really powerful, especially in a deck like this, where you could have hands where you have 3-4 monsters that take a normal summon. And then we move to the extra deck. Finally, I know this is a long ass video, but we're almost there. So we have the extra deck. This card's the card you're going to go into the most. Minerva, she says, detachable material to mill 3. If any of them are Lightsworns, you draw cards equal to the number of Lightsworns there were. And then if she's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can mill 3 again. And then depending on how many Lightsworns that were milled there, you would pop cards on your opponent's field based on however many were milled there. And she's 2,000, and she's really generic. Any 2 level 4s. She doesn't need 2 Lightsworns. It's any 2 level 4s. So you make her with so much stuff. That's why she's the reason you won just a ton of level 4s that spam the board. And then this guy as well. This guy's your power play. If you resolve Curious, you're probably doing pretty well on the duel. On Link Summon, you can send 1 card from your deck to the graveyard. Any card. Whatever you want. So as you can see, it's a pretty powerful card. It's a 2,400 walking Foolish Burial. On top of that, if a card is sent from your deck to the graveyard by an effect, mill 3 cards from your deck to the graveyard. That activates on his first effect. So you literally send 1 and then mill 3. So really, really strong with loading your graveyard up with strong stuff, as well as if he's destroyed by battle or leaves the field with an opponent's card effect, you can target one card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Any card. That could just be a power spell. You just add Foolish Burial back and mill and just send whatever you need after that. Moving on, we have some Synchros. This card's really, really strong. It's actually a really new card. It's a jump promo. I would actually get it now. It's like $4 now, but easily. It's a jump promo. This card is like gonna appreciate in value. I'm pretty confident this card's gonna go up in value. So I think now's a pretty good time to get him. He just says on Synchro Summon, send a monster from deck to graveyard, whose level is lower than this card. And then you can't activate effects of that monster for the rest of the turn. So it's slow, but it gets a Snow Engrave, and then Snow's ready to interrupt your opponent on their turn. Really good card, really, really powerful card, and it can also quick effect Synchro on your opponent's turn. So you could quick effect into a Black Rose on your opponent's turn. Really scary. Nat Beast, you do play Glow Up Bulb, and you do have some level 4s as well. So level 4 Earths. So if you can make Nat Beast, I wouldn't blame you for playing Nat Beast. Pretty good card. Michael, the Arch Lightsworn, he targets one card, banish it. Once per turn, pay 1,000 to banish a card. Pretty nice little removal there. It does target, but it banishes, so that's good. And then when he's destroyed, you can target other Lightsworns in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and gain 300 for each one. And once per turn during your end phase, send the top 3 card from your deck to the grave. So mill 3 on end phase, you can shuffle for more life points, and banish one. So pretty good, just like level 7. Nice little toolbox removal card. And then Black Rose, like I said, you can quick Synchro, or if you're able to like go and make a Destrudo play without your normal summon, turn like going second, you can just Black Rose, wipe your opponent's board, and then before your normal summon, then normal summon and get on with your stuff and proceed to wreck. There. So pretty generic cards. I would play Utopia and Utopia the Lightning. You spam the board a lot, you can make rank 4s really easily, and this card just helps you game so easy. It's a 5,000 attack point monster that can't be disrupted in the battle phase. So really, really powerful card. Exciton Knight is now legal. On the same basis of Destrudo, if you can get 2 level 4s on board without a normal summon and make this, wipe your opponent's board, and then normal summon into your stuff, like set up a board, like you're probably sitting pretty good. Tornado Dragon, just for generic back row decks that like may just have a ton of stun, you can force some stuff out and then go for them. Omega, because you do have some level 4 tuners to go with your other level 4 monsters, so you can make 8s pretty easy as well. And keep in mind there are other ones too, like any level 7 Synchro that's generic that like you like, feel free to throw that in. Any level 8s as well, feel free to put those in. I put Scarlight here. Trishula is another one as well. You do play Glow Up and Jet if you played either of those. Any 2 4s with that does this. And if you resolve Trishula, you probably just win the duel. The amount of resources you strip from your opponent this way is just insane. It really is insane, especially going first. No, not going first. You can't do it from first, but going second. If you resolve this going second, you probably just win. And then for links, like the only links I would like really, really play is like Underclock, just because of the OTK potential. This is a heavy OTK deck, and it's really generic. It just gets stuff on the field into grave pretty quick. And then for the only fusion I would consider is like Mud Dragon, but obviously only if you're playing instant fusion. Really good extender, and he can protect your other lights. He's also a worm, and you can make him light, which helps you go into Curious, because I don't know if you saw, I don't think I said anything about it, but Curious just needs 3 monsters with the same attribute but different types. So most of the time you're just going to make a light, make 3 lights into Curious, and just instant fusion into Mud Dragon, make it light, and that's a light worm. You have no other worms in your deck, so that won't overlap, and it's just good fodder. You can make a rank 4 with it. You can use it for Curious, do whatever you need. Make a link, make Underclock, Synchro. It's just good body on board to do whatever you need. But yeah, I think that's the last card. Is it the last card? It is. All right, guys. Like I said at the beginning of this video, sorry it's so long, 30-minute video, but like I said at the beginning, this is all just like stuff you can look at, and I'm just giving you the basis of like the most important cards. It's up to you to choose what you want to run and how you want to run it. But yeah, this is just an overview. I wish I could say a quick overview, but it's pretty long. Regardless, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think about this style of video, if you would want more from like different archetypes. Obviously Lightsworn is like a weird one because it's so generic of like the cards you play with it is just any card that's good like in the graveyard. There were so many cards here I went through and I had tried to showcase because I think they all have good value in Lightsworns, whereas other decks would probably be a much shorter video just because they don't encompass like a whole big strategy like this. This is literally just dump cards to grave, so you just want good cards in grave. Other decks are a little more specific, so the videos wouldn't be as long. But let me know what you think otherwise about this format of video in general, like just helping you decide what you would want to do for your deck. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been John from Justnutz. Subscribe if you hadn't, like I said at the beginning of the video, and enjoy your Halloween coming up. So bye.